I'm sure if I was sitting here talking about technology from any other industry that performs as poorly as the tech that I have here, we'd have some recall notices issued very, very quickly. Look, I've been out testing these 3 cycling radars extensively over the last week. Well, actually a little more than a week. I've just been recording the results for this video over the last week. And what you're about to see is just how bad things can get when a product simply does not work as it should. In fact, with the results that you're about to see, none of these devices should be for sale. Now, a quick disclaimer after saying that, if at any time in the near future the issues that I've encountered with these products are resolved, either via firmware or revised hardware, I'll publish an update, so keep an eye on the video description for those. But for now, where things are at today. So, when it comes to...
Car back!
As I was saying, when it comes
Car
to...
back!
There is no car, and that's really annoying, isn't it? Well, sit tight. Now, cycling rear radars are designed to alert you of anything approaching you from behind. They're no replacement for a head check, and yes, they can be less than useful when used in urban areas where there's always going to be traffic approaching from behind. But on a lot of roads and trails, they are literally a second set of eyes in the back of your head. If something is approaching you from behind, you'll get a notification, a simple, actionable alert to keep your hands on the bars, maybe do a head check, keep to the left or to the right, maybe to tell that bunch to tighten up and keep single file. And a lot of the time, that notification on your head unit or via the app, via your headphones or via a speaker will happen well before you hear the vehicle itself approaching. Now, 10 years ago, Garmin were first to market with the RTL 500 cycling radar. They updated the form factor in 2018 with the RTL 510, at which point we started seeing a notable uptake in cyclists using radars. Now, fast forward a few years, and we're seeing other companies selling similar radar/light combination devices. Magine, Brighton, Trek, all which have been reviewed here on the channel. And now there's a number of other radars appearing in recent times. There's an increasing interest in non-Garmin radars as they're typically cheaper. They have USB-C charging, and it's about now that people with the older 510 and 515s are experiencing some battery life issues if you're using them on every ride. These batteries don't last forever, and people are understandably hesitant to buy the same product again with only micro USB-C charging. So what I've been testing is these 3 radars here, the Magic Shine CMe R300 light radar combo device, the Giant Recon Plus light radar and Apple Find My device, and the IGP Sport SR30 light and radar combo. These units have all been tested in isolation on the bike by themselves and also side by side with a baseline, the Garmin Vario RTL 515. Now, while these devices are dual function, they're both lights and radars, I've focused firstly on the hero feature, the radar. If the radar functionality is no good, then there's absolutely no reason to choose these over a much cheaper basic rear tail light. And if the hero function does perform as expected, then I dig into further detail. So for example, if the radar detections are good from these, I'll then dig into measuring the detection distance, the beam width, the alert persistence, etc. My Trek Carback radar review, being over 30 minutes long, is a good example of how deep that testing or verification can go. If at any point in my testing I get an indication that the product is not performing its basic function, then I'll raise a support ticket or ask the manufacturer if what I'm seeing is expected. And that's been the case here, times 3. And some of the responses from the companies have been interesting. Before getting into the details, a quick overview of my testing protocol for bike radars. I have a number of testing loops that include on-road, off-road, side roads, and roads that twist and turn. The radars are first tested in isolation on the bike, which gives me their baseline performance, and then they're mounted side by side a few inches apart from the RTL 515 and a rear camera too. The radars are mounted just below saddle height with an unobstructed line of sight to anything approaching. They're angled as close to 90 degrees to the ground as possible, and the head units that I'm using are the Garmin Edge devices using the My Bike Radar Traffic Connect IQ app to get additional metrics from the connected radar such as distance and speed of approaching vehicle. The 2 test runs are then compared to ensure the consistency of results and that there's no interference caused by using multiple radar devices. The short notes on that one is there's no interference as my results were consistent in all cases with either 1 or 2 radars on the bike. Okay, the first radar we'll have a look at today is the Magic Shine CMe R300. It's a radar, it's the light, which is quite bright. It has a 35-degree horizontal detection beam, 140-meter detection distance, and can detect cars or vehicles of up to 160 kilometers per hour approaching it. On the back is a mini quarter-turn mount, not Garmin compatible. It has a quick mount for all bikes and all seat posts, that's quite well, but the mount on the back here isn't all that durable because mine broke. The weight of this coming in at 112 grams and a USB-C recharge. It has a group awareness mode, so if there's other devices like this, it will drop its brightness a little bit. And it does have a companion app that doesn't work in the background, making it kind of useless. Battery life claims 8 hours through to 24 hours with the light and radar active. Here's a full table of different modes and things that it has. My battery test, with the radar on and the light on low solid, there was a 14.5 hour claimed battery life. I got 13 hours and 14 minutes. So I was pretty close to the spec, but that was a bench test. What wasn't a bench test is how it performed out on the bike. Let's have a look at that now. Okay, the first on-road test and demonstration is with the Magic Shine See-Me R300, and not only 7 seconds into recording this video, we have the first false positive. Conditions are good. This is a side road. We have absolutely no traffic whatsoever, but that still doesn't stop our second false positive happening right there. To save some time, I'll do a speed run through the false positives from 32 seconds, 8 minutes, 8:21, 8:37, 9:12, 10:03, 12:06, you get the picture. Putting a pause to the false positive summary for now, let's have a look at this scenario, which took place as I exited this roundabout. So a car has matched my speed here, which I don't expect an alert from until it starts accelerating around me, which is happening now. And the Magic Shine failed to alert on that vehicle. I would consider that a false negative. There was a car there and nothing was reported. A little further down the road, and another questionable miss by the R300. This vehicle here passing me with no alerts whatsoever. The R300 picking up the car behind it successfully. So when it does see a car, it successfully alerts, which is good, but sometimes it misses them, and sometimes it thinks there's a car when there's not. Now, the summary of this ride was 14 false positives in 11 kilometres and 2 false negatives in that same distance, 11 kilometres. Not a good start for things for a solo ride with this radar. Alrighty, onto the side-by-side testing with a lot more information on screen. The Vario RTL 515 paired to the 1050 Edge over on the left. Over on the right, as before, the Magic Shine R300, this time paired to the Garmin Edge 840. These are both operating side-by-side, recorded in real time, so the alerts that you're seeing on screen are the alerts that I'm getting on the bike. And it doesn't take too long for one of these devices to detect, well, it's a false positive. And as we come around the corner here, you can see there's no cars approaching. However, the Magic Shine does tell me there's something approaching. Same position as last time, actually. Not too soon after, in fact, 2 seconds from now, at 40 seconds, we have our second false positive with nothing approaching on the Magic Shine. The Vario RTL 515 operating as expected. As before, let's speed run through the other false positives of this, well, just some of them anyway. 1:31, 8 minutes 30, 8 minutes 51, 12 minutes 34, 12:47, 13:34. You get the picture. All up, 11 false positives in 19 kilometres and 0 false positives from the RTL 515. 2 more observations of the R300 as I wrap up this on-road testing, and the first one being the alert persistence is lower on the Magic Shine R300. You can see here it's dropped these vehicles off the screen a lot sooner than the RTL has when the cars match my speed, and the detection time is on average slower on the R300 by around a second and a half. Finishing off with just some other notes on this unit here, it was a media unit sent for review. There are a number of reviews out there already published using the same hardware. Magic Shine supplied an updated firmware a few weeks ago, but I found no change in functionality out on the road with that new firmware. Magic Shine have seen the latest results and asked me to post my review once they supply an updated version of this. They prefer not to have my results from my current testing published. However, they said if I was to publish my review, they had a few quotes here. We'd appreciate if you could mention that the false positives are actually false positive reports. That's because our radar is very sensitive. The See-Me R300 will definitely detect cars approaching from behind, and false positives usually happen when there are no cars. These false positives won't cause any danger to the rider. Pause on the quote for there. Of course, no, a false positive won't cause a danger to the rider. What it will do, though, is erode all confidence that this device actually works. It is doing what it says, which was the case for me. Continuing their quote, we also plan to send you a new improved See-Me R300 in early March. We'll be happy to pay you to make a dedicated video about the improved See-Me R300. My videos on these aren't paid reviews. That could explain why my review is a little different to the others, but either way. Look, if they do send an updated unit that performs better, I will let you know. Next up is the IGP Sport SR300, not a new unit, but one I haven't covered extensively here. Coming in at around 120 US dollars, it's quite cheap. The specifications of this: radar, light, 40-degree horizontal beam, 150 meter detection distance, and approach speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. The light, only 60 lumens, so quite low. The mount is a quarter-turn mount, but it's 90 degrees offset to Garmin, so not quite compatible with existing Garmin Varia mounts. In the box comes a quick mount for all posts, comes in at 68 grams, USB-C compatible, and does have an app, but it doesn't work in the background either. Not quite sure what the deal is with apps working in the background or not, but the Varia app that does work in the background is extremely handy for my riding. This, again, has an app, doesn't work in the background. Battery up to 20 hours claimed. My battery tests on the bench here, full solid. I got 10 hours and 58 minutes until it went to a lower state automatically, at which time 13 hours and 12 minutes had ticked past before this switched off. In Peloton mode, this was quite the performer. I got 21 hours and 54 minutes before it switched off. So the battery life on this was pretty notable. On the bench, of course. But how did it perform outdoors? Let's have a look. Single radar testing on my 7.4 kilometer loop for the SR30 and the Garmin Edge 1050 with screen recording on. Cutting straight to the chase, there were 25 false positives on this 7.4 kilometre loop, of which only around 2 kilometres was on road. Now I will focus on this little occurrence here at an approaching Tesla. The alert did eventually pop up from the SR30, albeit a little late, but then a false positive happened behind it. So there was a car, but there wasn't, but it was reporting that... Okay, that's what happened out on the road with this one. So in summary there, single radar test, no other radars in use, 25 false positives in just a few kilometres. Onto the side-by-side testing over the full 19-kilometre test route that I have, with on-roads, off-roads, side roads and windy roads. And unfortunately, things weren't getting any better, with a total of 40 false positives over the 19 kilometres recorded with the SR30, and a total of 0 false positives recorded with the Varia RTL 515. Now, as discussed with the previous radar, let's have a look at the alert persistence and the sensitivity when a car effectively matches my speed. So we have a vehicle approaching here. The Garmin RTL 515 has detected that vehicle and has put an alert on screen. The SR30 is yet to do so. It takes a few seconds. There we go. It's now put the alert on screen. The car is now matching my speed, which, well, you go either way, I guess, whether it maintains the alert or not. But the SR30 does drop that off a lot faster than the RTL 515. Car matching my speed, slowly approaching now. SR30 is back, showing an alert state, and drops off again, and then comes back. If I was to quickly glance down at just the Garmin 840, I could be given different information than what was reported with the RTL 515. So in my books, the 515 does outperform the SR30 for those persistence tests for cars matching my speed. Alrighty, so that's the results from this, and it appears things are getting worse. But we're not done just yet. We've still got one to go. Before we get to the next one though, just some quick notes on this. IGP Sport did confirm the SR30 in my hand was on the latest production firmware. I did provide them with the full side-by-side test video. They also confirmed there would typically be no interference with other radars, which was backed up with my solo testing versus the dual-sided testing. I'll be catching up with the company at Type A Cycle in a few weeks. I'll report back with any updates on the performance of this, I guess. Okay, onto the third and final radar of this video, the Giant Recon Plus TL300R, coming in at around $180 US. It is a radar, a light, and has Apple Find Me technology, just like an AirTag, but with no ultra-wideband precision. So don't go losing this behind the couch. You're not going to be able to do that. The radar itself is a 35-degree horizontal beam, 140-meter distance, and approach speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour will be detected by this device. 4 LEDs, the top 2 blink when there is a detection. The mount itself is absolutely horrible. I believe it's the Giant TL mount. I'm not a fan of what this thing is at all. In fact, it stopped me from testing this for a number of weeks because it's just not a... Anyhow, the mount is terrible. The weight of this, 92 grams, USB-C recharge, and has a group detection mode. So if there's another one of these in the near vicinity, you can enable group mode, which changes them both to 5 lumens solid, as you can see right there. So you don't blind your friends, assuming your friends all have one of these. Why do I have 2? I'll get to that in just a few moments. There's also no companion app at all for this, which is a big miss because there's no alerts then via your phone or via your headphones if you're using one of these radars, which I find extremely useful on a competitor's product. The claimed battery life of these, solid low with radar on is 22 hours, solid high with radar on is 9 hours. My bench testing here, which was just solid low, I got 21 hours and 36 minutes. When the battery drops below 10%, the light output is reduced from whatever mode it's in, and the radar also appears to switch off with the last few percent of battery remaining. Just something to be aware of. Alrighty, onto the road tests with the Recon Plus TL300R, starting off with the single radar ride with a single Garmin Edge 1050 recording all the alerts. And over the 11-kilometre loop, I recorded 35 false positives from the TL300R. So things were getting quite busy with the alerts, but it didn't stop there. It gets worse with the side-by-side test over 19 kilometres. Unfortunately, there is no easy way for me to demonstrate 63 false positives over 19 kilometres. So here's my video editor and the timeline of which I've marked every single false positive recorded with the Giant Recon TL300R. Quite a good batch through here, through here, through here, and through here. But look, I'll be honest, I actually had to switch this radar off after a number of rides with it because it was just simply crying wolf way too much. So some very, very poor results there, and that's 3 from 3 with radars that I would not put on the bike this week. A few other notes before I conclude what I've gone through this week. The Find My network support for these is a bonus. It's actually pretty cool getting a low battery warning on your iDevice, maybe your laptop or your phone, if the battery drops too low in these and you've got it set up as an AirTag, so to speak. Now, why do I have 2 of these? Well, the first one I had was supplied by Giant as a sample, but I wasn't able to confirm if it was on production firmware. So I went and purchased another one from Giant Australia retail, which was a quick way to lose $270 as it was identical to the one that I already had, that being the same firmware, same product ID, and the same road test results. The upside is that I got to test that dual Peloton mode with both of them at once. Okay, so where are we at? I do expect these results are not what anybody wants to see, especially the companies who manufacture these products and the stores that sell them. However, on the flip side, if these products were exceptional, that's what the results would show. But they're not, and that's not what the results showed whatsoever. Now, I have been questioning exactly what kind of testing was done prior to these products being approved for sale. As I said in the intro, if this was any other industry, let's say the auto industry, where these may be reversing sensors that were setting up false positives at the same ratio as these little things here, there would be a manufacturer recall, no question. These are literally sold as safety devices to cyclists, and you've seen the performance. I can't make that up. Now, some quotes from these manufacturers. A game changer in cycling safety. This device is designed to enhance situational awareness. That's from the Giant Recon Plus TL300R manual. Enhance safety. Detect approaching vehicles with 150-meter range. That's on the IGP Sport website. Look, there's no secret. The bike industry is facing some tough times, but I do not understand how releasing products that perform so poorly is going to help that in any way. Bike radar technology is something that has enhanced the experience on the bike for literally hundreds of thousands of riders. These devices, on the other hand, make radars seem like an untrustworthy gimmick of sorts, and I can't put it in any other way. Look, after all this testing, when switching back to using a radar that I can trust, I had a much better experience on the bike. I could trust the detection was real. I'd turn around, I'd do a head check. Yeah, there was something there. And that's how these should work. With the radar that pops up false positives, I started ignoring it, and I was doing the exact opposite of what I should be doing for a device that is sold as a safety device. Anyhow, let's leave it there. Let's hope we see some improvements with some of these devices that I have, or companies do the responsible thing and issue a recall on all of these, because after all, they're about safety, right? Not just profits.